मैं हूं आशुतोष जादव और वेलकम टू द वेरी फर्स्ट एपिसोड ऑफ मेड टॉक सीरीज। मेड टॉक एक ऐसी सीरीज होने वाली है जहां पर एक पर्टिकुलर डिसीज के ऊपर हमारे जो गेस्ट है वो आके उसको फुल्ली एक्सप्लेन करेंगे। मुझे वैसे कैमरे की आदत है नहीं तो मैनेज कर लेना। So, the guest for the very first episode of the Med Talks is none other than my very close friend, Dr. Amruta Khade, and the topic will be Alzheimer's disease.
Hello everyone, myself Dr. Amruta Khade. I'm a physiotherapist and my master's is in general and community-based rehabilitation. So today we are going to study or discuss a topic called as a condition called as Alzheimer's disease. Now before moving on to Alzheimer's, let's see what is dementia. Now dementia is a group of disorders occurring in the brain which causes cognitive impairments in learning and in memory. So dementia causes multiple cognitive deficits including memory impairment, learning impairment and other impairments such as aphasia in which the person is unable to communicate, agnosia in which the person is unable to feel the sensations, apraxia in which the person is unable to understand the commands. The person also has disturbances in its executive functioning. This condition is also called as organic brain syndrome. See the characteristics of dementia. There are two characteristics of dementia. First is the cortical dementia and second one is the subcortical dementia. In cortical dementia, it causes problems with the memory, learning, thinking, social behavior and intelligence. Whereas in the subcortical dementia, it affects the memory and emotion. Alzheimer's disease is a progression of cortical dementia. Now, Alzheimer's disease is a degenerative brain disorder of unknown etiology, but we do know it is one of the causes of dementia. Now, Alzheimer's starts in the late middle age or in the old age. It results in progressive memory loss, in impaired thinking, disorientation, changes in personality and the mood. Alzheimer's is a chronic, irreversible disease that affects the cells in the brain. It gradually destroys the ability to reason, remember, imagine, or even learn new things. Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia, accounting for 60 to 80% of people suffering from dementia. 1 of 8 people aged 65 and older have Alzheimer's disease. On an average, patients with Alzheimer's disease live for around 8 to 10 years after the diagnosis is made. Now let's see the factors responsible for Alzheimer's disease. Factors such as neurochemicals such as acetylcholine substance P, environmental factors such as smoking cigarette, certain infections, metal industrial toxins, use of cholesterol lowering drugs such as genetic and immunological factors such as, now let's see this, pay attention to this, okay. Oxidized LDL receptor 1 and angiotensin 1, these are the converting enzymes. It is tied in such a way in the brain with the protein called as alipolipoprotein, which is also known as APOE4. This reduces the buildup of harmful proteins in the brain. These harmful proteins are called as plaques. We will study about the plaques further in the pathophysiology. Now let's move on further to knowing the risk factors of Alzheimer's disease. So which people are more prone to Alzheimer's disease? The first one is old age. Old age is the most important factor as not everyone moving on to old age has Alzheimer's, but Alzheimer's can occur in old age. The second risk factor is Down syndrome. Kids suffering from Down syndrome are most prone to having Alzheimer's in the later stages. Positive family history, any parent in the family having Alzheimer's, it can pass on to the children. It is a genetic inherited disease. The fourth one is chronic high blood pressure. The fifth one is head injuries. Then females are more prone to Alzheimer's than males. And smoking and drinking. Chronic smoking and drinkers are going to have Alzheimer's disease later in the old age. Now let's see the warning signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. The first sign is memory loss. The person tends to forget its recent memory. The second is the person has difficulty in performing his everyday tasks. The third is the person is unable to communicate. He has difficulty in his language. He tends to forget some words. He has slurred speech. The fourth problem is the person is disoriented to time and place. The next sign is the person has poor or decreased judgment. When a person is walking, for example, walking towards the staircase, the person is unable to judge the distance towards the staircase and the depth of the staircase, which causes falls. The next sign is the person misplaces his things, they lose things, they forget the things where they have kept. Even if they have kept it in the familiar place, they forget to recover from it. The next sign is an unexpected changes in the mood swings or behavior. The person gets agitated, the person can get angry, the person can get sad, the person can get overly happy, and there is no logical explanation to it. We can also see changes in the personality of the person. He can behave in such a way that he used to not behave before. The other signs are language difficulty and confusion. Language difficulty, such as the person tends to forget his words, it also tends to forget the mother tongue he used to speak every day with, and the person is also confused, less confident. He loses the power of initiating things. Now let's see the stages of Alzheimer's disease. Now this Alzheimer's disease progresses into various stages, from initial stage to early stage to middle stage to a later stage. Now let's see the stages of Alzheimer's disease. Now this Alzheimer's disease progresses into various stages, from initial stage to early stage to middle stage to a later stage. Now, in the initial stage, the signs that we see in the patient is the forgetting of things occasionally. The person forgets things not every day and not repeatedly, but in occasions. In several occasions, the person forgets things. The second is he tends to misplace things sometimes, not every day, but sometimes. And the third is minor short-term memory loss, like the person sometimes forget what he has eaten yesterday or what ADLs he has done yesterday. Now this initial stage is used for diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, which further progresses to second stage, which is called as the early stage, where the diagnosis is confirmed as Alzheimer's disease. In this, the person has absent-mindedness, forgets appointments, slight changes seen by the closed ones in his personality, in language, or in his behavior, and the person is confused of the unfamiliar situation. When the person is in familiar situation, he definitely forgets things, or he is confused in that thing in familiar situations. But even in unfamiliar situation, the person is more confused and scared and doesn't know what steps to be taken further to come out of the situation. Now, post the middle stage or the early stage, the Alzheimer's disease progresses to the middle stage, which is the third stage. In this, the signs seen are deeper difficulty in remembering recent events, or the person has difficulty in learning new things. The person has more confusion than before, even in familiar situations. There is speech impairment. The person forgets his language. He has slurred speech. He also forgets what he has to speak, or in middle of the conversation, the person forgets the conversation, or forgets what the conversation was all about, and repeatedly initiating the same conversation. The person repeatedly starts speaking the same things over and over again. Now this third stage moves on to the late stage, which is the fourth stage. In this, the person becomes more aggressive and more passive. He detaches himself from the familiar ones, from the loved ones, because he is more agitated, more confused, and he is unable to recognize himself also. He has loss of self-awareness. He has cognition lost. He becomes more aggressive, abusive, or even becomes paranoid. Now let's see the pathophysiology of Alzheimer's disease. Now there are three pathophysiological changes occurring in the brain. First pathological change is deposition of amyloid plaques. The second is tangles or a tau called as neurofibrillary tangles. And third is a loss of connection between the neurons in the brain. Now let's see in detail the pathophysiology. The first pathological change is amyloid plaques. It is formed by protein fragments called as beta amyloid peptide mixed with the other proteins and other cells. It attacks the nerve and the brain cells as well as hinders the neurotransmission in the brain. This destruction of the parts causes clumps of protein to form around the brain cells. These clumps are known as plaques, the amyloid plaques or the bundles caused by beta amyloid peptides. The presence of these plaques and bundles start to destroy and break the connection between the brain cells, making the condition worse. These plaques therefore hinders with the neurotransmission of the brain and loses the connection of neurons to neurons, which causes conduction in the brain and helps in proper functioning of the brain. The second pathological change occurring in the brain is the formation of neurofibrillary triangles inside the neurons. Neurofibrillary triangles are abnormal collection of protein called as tau. This again hinders with the neurotransmission of the neuron to neuron connection. And the third pathological change occurring in the brain is the loss of connection between the two neurons that are responsible for memory and learning. Because as we all know, neurons cannot survive without the connection with the other neurons. And in this what happens, the connection between the two neurons break, and due to which it causes atrophy and shrinkage of the brain cells, which ultimately causes Alzheimer's. Now let's see the types of Alzheimer's disease. There are two types. One is the early onset of Alzheimer's and second is the late onset of Alzheimer's. And both have its genetic links. Genetic links as in it is inherited from one of the parent or one of the family member. Now, early onset is very rare. It affects only 5% of the people having Alzheimer's, and it occurs in the early age. It starts from from the age of 30 to 60 years. Some onset of Alzheimer's is inherited. It is caused by a gene mutation of chromosomes number 1, 14, and 21. If one of these chromosomes, such as 1, 14, and 21, it is there in his parents, then the gene is mutated and transferred to the child, and the child may develop early onset of Alzheimer's. Now, the late onset of Alzheimer's is very common. It occurs in most of the Alzheimer's disease patients. In this, the apoprotein E, that is the APOE4 protein, it is a gene present on the chromosome 19. As we talked about it earlier, this protein helps in binding, or this helps in preventing the bindings, that is plaques in the brain. But when there is absence of this binding protein, it causes plaques and thus causes late onset of Alzheimer's. Now let's see how are we going to assess a patient with Alzheimer's disease. So individual will have significantly impaired functioning that interferes with normal activities and relationships. They also lose their ability to solve problems and maintain social and emotional control. And they also experience personality changes and behavioral problems such as agitations, delusion, hallucination. They start imagining things which are not even present. Now, as we all know, memory loss is a common symptom of Alzheimer's disease. But only memory loss is not a common sign of Alzheimer's disease. Like, not every person who is having memory loss is going to suffer from Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's disease is only diagnosed if there are two or more brain function deficits in the brain functioning, such as memory and language skills. The important are memory and language skills. If these two are significantly impaired without the loss of consciousness of the person, then it is a confirmed case of Alzheimer's. Now, the assessment of cognitive disorders begin first with the medical history. We are going to take his proper medical history, the start of his cognition loss when it all began. If the person, of course, is not oriented, we need to ask the family members or the close one or the caregivers of the patient. The important thing is the past medical history. The past medical history should be considered for such as falls, head injuries, accidents, head trauma, hypertension. As we know, hypertension is one of the risk factor of Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, any vitamin deficiencies the person has, or if the person is having thyroid disorders, or the person is a chronic smoker or a alcohol consumer. You also need to know the medical history or the medication history the person is consuming right now, because chronic use of certain medications can also cause cognitive impairments in memory and learning. Therefore, medication history is very important to be considered. Moving on to a comprehensive physical and neurological examination. Examinations such as gait impairment should be checked, language impairments, the muscles should be checked for rigidity, tremors, bradykinesia. The person's daily activities also should be reviewed. If the person is able to independently do his ADLs, such as if the person is able to do his toileting independently, cooking, how he manages his finances, is he able to take his medication on time, or on his own, does he remember to take his medications, how the person manages his grocery shopping or other home uh, things that the person has to buy, and to determine if the person has any loss in the degree of functioning of his ADLs. Evaluation of the mental status of the person should also be considered. Mini mental status examination is a scale which is used for diagnosis of diagnosis of mental status of a patient. We should see if the person is losing his attention, immediate or delayed recall. The person is unable to remote memory, executive functioning is impaired, and if the person is going through various depression scales also present, we can also use these scales and diagnose if the person is going through depression. Also, investigations such as CT, MRI, PET, SPECT, such investigations are also mandatory. Without these, we won't be able to diagnose if the patient has plaque formation in the brain, or there are neurofibrillary triangles present in the brain, which is also called as tau, or there is any loss of connection between the neurons, or there is shrinkage of the brain cells. So these investigations such as CT and MRI are used for making confirmed diagnosis of the condition. Now we know the pathophysiology, the risk factors, the signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, the causes of Alzheimer's disease. As the cause is unknown, but at least we know that Alzheimer's is one of the cause of dementia. So now further moving on to management of Alzheimer's disease, the first goal of management is we have to improve the quality of life of the person by maximizing the functional performances, by enhancing cognition and addressing the mood and behavior of the person. Now let's see the general principles of treatment. First, we have to identify and treat the comorbid physical illness that the person is already going through. Like we have to bring down if the person has high blood pressure, we need to first consider to normalize the hypertension, or if the person has a high glucose level, we need to normalize the glucose level, the diabetes the person is suffering through. Second is avoid anticholinergic medications which has high side effects on the person's brain. We should limit the prescription psychotic medication the person is using. We should promote the brain health by exercising, giving balanced diet to the person, and reducing the stress the person is going through. Now, how do we reduce the stress the person is going through? The first and the most important thing is we should teach the person how to meditate, how to do exercises. We can play various games with them, such as memory games, which will enhance his memory power. We have to maximize the time or the activities of daily living, so that the person is more engrossed and the person is repeatedly doing his daily activities. We should keep on reminding them when and how to do the daily activities. We should also encourage them to go on long walks, and the person should, of course, a closed one or a caregiver should accompany the person. Uh, Along with the exercises, balanced diet, meditation, and the maximizing the daily living activities of daily living, we should also monitor the cognition, the mood, and the behavior of the person to see if there is any improvement of the therapy on them. As there is loss of judgment or decreased judgment or poor judgment in patients suffering from Alzheimer's disease, we should also consider modification of his home environment, such as we should use colorful staircase tiles or frictionless surface so that the patient doesn't fall, or to avoid falls, various railings or bars should be present in the bathroom so that the person is easily able to sit and stand over the sanitation placed in the bathroom. Various labels or boards can be placed on the walls of the home so that the person reads and gets familiar to the home environment if the person has confusion in the familiar situation. So here we come to the end of our discussion on the condition called as Alzheimer's disease. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Amruta, for being here with us, for sharing your knowledge. थैंक यू सो मच। और हाँ, अब ये फर्स्ट एपिसोड तो आज ख़त्म हो गया यहीं पे। अगला एपिसोड कौन से टॉपिक पे बनाऊँ, इसके लिए आप मुझे कमेंट सेक्शन में टॉपिक्स बताना, या फिर डिसीज़ का नाम वहाँ पे कमेंट सेक्शन में लिख दीजिए। उसके ऊपर मैं ट्राई करूँगा कि अगला एपिसोड उसके ऊपर हो। और उसी के साथ साथ अगर कोई क्वेरीज हो, डाउट्स हो, तो वो भी नीचे कमेंट सेक्शन में आप लिख सकते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच।